First thing to say is on a human level, I mean, I'm just so sorry for the staff here in Clare that look like they'll be losing their jobs. It's just such a difficult way to start the year for them. And I think we've got to believe as well that it seemed very heartfelt from the founder, Charlie O'Loughlin, that they really did try their very best to try and save this, but it just wasn't working for them. And that all culminated then yesterday in the High Court's decision to appoint liquidators. So it looks now like the best that can be hoped for is an orderly wind down, but that looks like it's happening, and it's a very large space here in our beautiful revamped town square, but it does occupy a very large space, and has provided employment to people over the years here in town. So it's a sad day for the town as well to lose a business that's been with us for a long time. And as I say, just particularly sad news for the people who work there, and our hearts go out to them today.
And it must be said, quite a lot of effort put in by the founder and owner, Charlie O'Loughlin, to actually keep the business going. He did, I believe, invest over €2.5 million of his own money when it had entered financial difficulties some years ago as well. But something he has pointed to is that shops like this are finding it harder and harder to compete with online
Yeah, I,
offerings.
I think that's true. I mean, we hear it from all of our businesses now. There, it's not just the online. I mean, online is difficult, but I think it's the cost of doing business as well, which I think Charlie O'Loughlin had talked about. So your rents, your rates, energy costs. A lot of new, not new legislation has come into play, and it's kind of the timing of all of this is like a perfect storm. So you've auto enrollment as well. You've pay rises, and pay rises are needed because the staff have to go out and do grocery shopping every week as well, and we're just in a very spiraling environment in terms of cost of living generally. But that is also true for business people running businesses. Those costs have really gone up exponentially in the last year or two, and it's becoming very difficult for them. I keep hearing all the time that margins are becoming kind of very elusive, and a lot of people are in business and coming to work every day to stay open rather than to necessarily make a good living from it. So I think there's a lot of that going on in our towns at the moment, that it's a bit like the swan. I think their head is above water, but the feet are furiously paddling to keep it going.
Yes, and we also have the news, regretfully, that Clare's based in Ennis and all Clare stores nationwide are, we understand it, closing down soon.
Yeah, I saw the sign there and the one on the way into Dunn Stores in the mall there yesterday that they've started a closing down sale. Again, now that would be a UK company, so that's kind of like a coming across the Irish Sea to us from the UK, and we're caught up in that. I suppose with Eurogiant, it's a homegrown company. I think it had its genesis in a single store in Moore Street way back in the 90s. So while one is Irish and one is UK based, it's the same effect of these chain stores that are just not able to cope anymore with rising costs. And the rising cost for business is not just unique to Ireland. I mean, it's global, and the Labour government in England have been in a lot of trouble this week. They've had to roll back on rates increases because they're centrally controlled rates increases for businesses like pubs. They've had to roll back on that, because I think that governments think that it's an endless pot of money, but really with retail and with hospitality, I think we've got to believe that some of the businesses are really in business to survive at the moment.
And unfortunately, that is the cruel, harsh reality of business, is that trends will change and that literally shopping habits can change on a whim. But it does a point to the importance of, well, particularly with these two stores that were beloved in the town for so long, that really you have to support local.
You have to support local. And, now, can I just say on a good news story, we had a phone call here this morning from somebody to know if we could help them find a unit in Ennis, in the town centre. They're looking for a unit to open a store in Ennis. So, you know, it's great that there are still people looking, and our town is looking fantastic. And it's great that we have a town now where people are dwelling a bit more. So we've got to try and praise that and to acknowledge that. But without a shadow of a doubt, the situation at the moment is that we just need as many people who live locally. If they get in their cars, they drive to work in Galway or Limerick or Shannon during the week, because we are a bit of an outlier in that respect as a town. I don't think there's another town like us in Ireland where such a huge proportion of our people get in the car in the morning and drive to work in other places. And, sometimes it can be very easy to do their shopping on the way home from work on a Thursday evening or a Friday evening. So it is to reach out and say, please don't forget to support Ennis Town Centre, and to try to remember, just for buying gifts or something like that. We've great independent shops. We've got stuff that's beyond the run of the mill in our shops in Ennis, and to try and keep that in mind and to support local, because we'll only have a vibrant town as long as we can do that. And as it is, town centres are getting smaller in terms of the amount of space that's populated by shops. We see it already in Ennis that so many of the pot were, super pubs or giant pubs, or just pubs a few years ago, are now social housing units because they've been converted. So the footprint of the core of the town is diminishing anyway, but we really, really need people to support those businesses that are still going in Abbey Street, in Parnell Street, and in O'Connell Street, to try and keep the town vibrant going forward.